Hi everyone, it's Matt here from Bite the Boxer. How are you all doing? Today we're going to take a quick look at one of my songs, Nothing But Sky, and I'm going to show you how it was made and what goes into it. I chose this song in particular because most of the sounds that you hear actually come from one instrument plugin. I'll show you which one in a minute, but it's quite a simple song, but it's one of my favourite ones that I've done from the sort of chilled ambient cyberpunk kind of style, the sort of run of singles which I did. And it was released back in March kind of time. Okay, so as you can probably see, we're using Logic today. So this is what Nothing But Sky looks like in Logic. Grand total of 9 instruments. Right, so let's jump in. I like to have things quite organized and stacked by instrument type. So at the top we've got three drum sounds. First of all, let's just, before we jump into drum sounds, let's have a listen to a little bit of it, just to remind ourselves. Okay, so that's more or less the kind of vibe of the song. Obviously there are different sections to it, but we'll get into that in a bit. So let's start with drums. Actually, this is kind of fitting, because a lot of the drum sounds you hear is Roland 808. It's actually 808 Day Tomorrow. Filming this on the 7th of August, so it's 808 Day Tomorrow when I'm filming. So it's a really simple pattern. It's quite a simple song. Anyway, so let's just hear this 808 doing its thing. Does that for, what's that, 8 bars or so. And I think it changes up a little bit. Oh yeah, got the open the hi-hat following the snare. It's really nice drum machine pattern, really simple. All that is on there is a bit of reverb, I think. Yeah, stock Logic reverb. Just doing that. A little closed hi-hat coming in there. Does it do much else? 808 cymbal occasionally. The 808 is such a cool little drum machine, and so that's such a revolution at the time. Actually, it was a complete flop at the time, but eventually became quite influential and used a lot. So that's basically the backbone for the drums. What else we've got going on in the drums is this UJam Beatmaker Vice, which is as you can probably tell by all the styling, it's supposed to be a like a real synthwave retro drum kit. Yeah, this drum sound I used a lot all over the album 86 sound, and literally all it's doing on this song is the snare, I think. It's just that, just to help thicken out that 808 snare. So that's the 808 in the Beatmaker voice. That's all it does, all the way through the song. So all I'm using it for is just that snare. Again, bit of reverb, stock Logic reverb. That's it. And those are the two main drum sounds. The other drum sound we got here, you'll hear at the beginning, in a kind of blink and you miss it kind of way, is that timpani. And this is actually one of my favorite plugins for music making, and one of my favorite instrument plugins. It's this BBC Symphony Orchestra by Spitfire Audio. It's completely free, and so many amazing sounds you can get from it. It's really cool sounding, but on this particular song, it's just that timpani which is playing. Just that. Just for the intro. That's all that is. Super cool sounding. So yeah, that's the drums. I think the beauty in this song is its simplicity. So we've got the 808, which is just doing a boom, boom, like that. Beatmaker voice just for the snare, chow. Timpani, boom, boom. Real simple, easy on the drums. And then I think everything else is coming from, everything else is coming from this magic ingredient. It's coming from a Roland Cloud plugin for the JV-1080. I don't know a lot about the JV-1080 synth, but this particular instance is super cool, and all the sounds from it are coming from a downloadable patch for the 1080, which is, just bringing it up on the screen, is this one, the Cinematic Cyberpunk by Jules Sherman. Aside from the drums, everything you hear is from this downloadable patch. So we can get rid of that. It's super cool. I should stop saying super cool, shouldn't I? It's probably better ways of describing stuff. But this bass sound is from that Cyberpunk pack, using the Final Cuts preset, and it sounds like this, the bass. Super menacing, isn't it? So menacing, so... And all the sound from that bass is just this patch. There's no other effects on there. Didn't need to add any reverb, didn't need to add any delay, didn't need to add anything else. It's just completely as is, out of the box. It sounds so good. It sounds super menacing. I could play. I've got a keyboard down here, by the way, which I'm just playing. It's just... It's very Blade Runner-esque. The whole patch is just Blade Runner all over. I love it. So that's the bass sound. I think it gets a little more interesting up here. Kind of goes up, and then drops back down. Let's get that really beefy low notes. That's the bass. Let's hear it with the timpani as well. Oh yeah, those jangles. You can hear those sort of jangly wind chimey things. That's also part of this sound. They're very subtle, but they're there. That's one of the things I like about this particular patch is if you listen carefully, there's lots of other stuff going on as well. Like lots of, rather than it just being a straight sound, you get all these little nuance bits in there as well. So, moving on. The next sound again is, it's actually from the same preset, this Final Cut preset from the Cyberpunk patch. But there must be like some sort of a split somewhere on, if you're playing on the keys, the lower half of the keyboard is that bass sound. Excuse me. And the higher up is this sound. Just kind of strings, and it's got like a little bit of electric piano in there as well. Again with jangles. Yeah, that electric piano in there. And the high notes. It's quite a slow attack to some of it, which helps it feel more moody. You hear how it'll take just half a second to drift in. It's nice. With the bass. Really cool. And if you've listened to much of my stuff, you'll probably notice that in almost every song I've got a choir sort of choral thing going on. And this one, no exception. Again, coming from this Cyberpunk patch. The preset is called Denton. This time I did add a little bit of EQ. I think that was to take off the top end a little bit, and added in a little bit of delay, which is probably a bit unnecessary really. This is what that sounds like. Really nice synthy choral patch. If you're listening to this on a good set of headphones or a good set of speakers, you could probably hear like similar to one of the other patches. there's some really subtle noise in there. It's almost like a hi-hat. See if you can hear it. Oh, speaking of subtle sounds, something which I've just turned off while I was talking is the whole thing is put through this plugin called Initial Analog Pro. I've turned it off because it's constantly this kind of crackly sound. Gives it that sort of crackly vinyl kind of sound. So I'll put through that to make it sound slightly aged and worn. So I'll put through that. So I'm just going to turn that off again while we're talking. But it is nice to have it there, just in the background. In the quieter moments, you can hear that creeping through. So yeah, that's my just another layer, which is this quiet patch is panned off to the right slightly, whereas the string sound is to the left. So I've got one coming out one ear, the other one coming out the other ear, because they are playing the same notes, same chords. So I like to have them slightly separated, just to give it that wider, all-encompassing feel. They sound really nice together, I think. I love that bass sound. So that's like the rhythm section, if you like. Got the bass and the drums and the pads playing the chords. So I'm going to talk next about this little pink section, which is our sort of melody lead part, if you like. And sort of electric piano sound, again coming from the JV-1080. And it sounds like this. It's classic sort of bell electric piano sound. Used a lot in like 80s ballads and soundtracks, so I think it works perfectly here. Add these in again. You can kind of see how the melody is pieced together. Yeah. Just see these dots here. Just goes up and down, nice, like a nice wave. All that delay in chorus is part of the preset patch. I haven't had to add anything else to it. So it gets to about there in the song. By this point we are, how far into it are we? About 2 minutes into the song by this point. And I think I've done pretty well at taking gradual steps and introducing new things as we go. So it's at this point we start to introduce another layer. So we've got how should we split this out? We've got this again, JV-1080 from the Cyberpunk sound set. The sound's called Trenchcoat. Just holding a note. Again, it's not just a straight sound, you get all these other cool little noises. It's almost like a ring modulator kind of thing going on. And this sound is playing exactly the same as the electric piano. So let's see how that sounds. This is it on its own. Again, you get these little noises. This is the two lead sounds together. So it works so nicely together. They're quite similar sounds. That's another thing I like to do, is if you've got a lead part playing through most of the song, get to about 2/3, 3/4 of the way in, and by that point the listener goes, they start to fatigue to the lead, so it's good to bring in another version of that lead just to thicken it out, make it a bit more interesting. So that's what I did here, playing exactly the same thing but the sound's a little bit different. Here we've also got this sound coming in, which again is another, guess what, JV-1080. It's the same one as that one, I think. Yep. So this is kind of, it's almost like a counter melody. It's quite a simple thing. It's not quite bass, not quite melody, it's somewhere in between. It's just, again, it's quite low down in the mix, quite subtle, but it's just there to add texture. It's panned off hard over to the right, so you're probably only hearing that in your right earphone. With the other lead parts. There we go. And there's a delay. There's a nice sort of echoey delay. And again, it looks like at some point I did think about adding in a delay because it's there, but it's grayed out, so it's not being used. So presuming that. Again, all part of the patch. didn't need to add much else in. So let's hear with everything in from that section. Now we've got a drop. Kind of like the intro. Bass. It's kind of like the intro but with more elaborate drums. That second snare's dropped out for this section just to make it a little bit more minimal. And then it comes back. I love that bit when it comes back and it sounds so much like an 80s film, doesn't it? Very 80s film vibes. Kind of, yeah, definitely Blade Runner in there. All I did for this bit, listen to how the choir changes. That's what it has been doing. Nice sound. Just shifts up. A couple extra notes, I think, stacked. The extra notes and going up higher as well. And you've got these descending notes. Just helps it sound more dramatic, I guess. That's not what I wanted to do, was it? Show inspector, but hide the editor. There we go. Just pop it down there for a sec. So yeah, that change for the choir sounds really cool. Looks like the pace goes up as well. Let me just play this. I can't remember doing this, but it looks like the bass goes up an octave. Goes up. Then some steps down. That's huge. I hope you've got good headphones because that sounds amazing. Oh yeah. So what else happens? Got these two lead parts which are kind of doing their own thing, but they sound really nice together. There's a couple notes in there which shouldn't work together, but I think they do. They shouldn't work, but to my ears they kind of do in that edgy sort of way. And you hear it in the context of the rest of the song. So it sort of works. And then that crackly final sound. And that's pretty much Nothing But Sky. You might see up here at the top. It was originally called Nothing But the Rain. Was the working title, but changed it to Nothing But Sky. Just because I preferred Nothing But Sky. Oh yeah, you can also see up here. Interesting tidbit. Labelled it synth version. This was because at the time I was going through a bit of a writer's block, or composer's block, or whatever you want to call it. And I think I was kind of overloading myself with just so many plugins and so many instruments and so many toys to play with. I was just throwing everything at songs and kind of overwhelming myself. And then this song I was working on, this is a kind of, it originally started out like a quite typical synth wavy upbeat song, very, very different sounding. And although I could hear that everything was working nicely, I couldn't get the sounds, like synth sounds, to sound right together. So what I did was I stripped everything back to absolute basics and rebuilt it from there. What I could do, bear with, the original version. Do you want to close the current project before opening? So I'm going to bring in this window at the library. This is a sort of, if you like, a rough demo version of Nothing But Sky. But rather than using that Roland Cloud JV-1080 plugin, this is mostly all that Spitfire Audio Symphony Orchestra, and so these are all orchestral sounds, absolutely back to basics, violins, horns, trumpets. This is how it sounded originally. And here it's the same song. We've got the timpani, violins, horns, and trumpets doing the lead, which I think still sounds really cool. Still got bass is a double bass. Still sounds menacing. And the flutes, I've got flutes take over the lead. A sec. I think I changed a couple notes around when I moved it over to new version. It sounds really nice on flutes, doesn't it? I might work on this version again, just as like a little, alternative version. But that's how the song started. I wanted to, and this is a really good piece of advice actually. If you do find yourself worrying too much about sounds, strip everything back to basic string sounds or a piano. If you can get it sounding good on piano or basic strings or flutes, you're onto something worthwhile, because it shouldn't be reliant on presets. So yeah, I made the notes sound good, basic sounds, and then I moved it over to synths, and I think it came out alright. I'm really, really chuffed with it. Really pleased with it. So yeah, that's a run through Nothing But Sky. I'm going to play it in its entirety, but obviously you can find it on Spotify, iTunes, or Apple Music, or whatever it's called, Amazon Music, Deezer, YouTube. Find it on all those platforms, along with everything else that I've done. Just go listen to it, and hopefully you've enjoyed this walkthrough of Nothing But Sky. So here it is.